Hi, everyone. Welcome to our EDUCAUSE 2020 conference session titled Beyond the Conference, Fostering Connections Across Institutions. And what you have today is a group of 3 different people from different campuses that have tried a couple of different things to foster connections on our own campuses. So we want to step you through what we've done. So to start things off, my name is Jonathan Hardy, and I am an IT director at the University of Georgia. I am responsible for a plethora of teams ranging from server, storage, cloud storage, as well as communications for Office 365, G Suite, and telephony and E911 services. You can get in touch with me via email or Twitter. Both of those are on this slide, and I will kick it over to Kyle to introduce himself.
Hi guys, I'm Kyle Solberg. I'm at Iowa State University, where I'm in instructional design coordinator for Engineering Online. So I'm on the instructional design side of EDUCAUSE rather than the IT side. And my role is helping faculty connect with their online students both on campus and around the world. Again, same as Jonathan, my information is on the slide there, so feel free to get in touch with us, any of us. And I'll kick it over to Tina.
Hi everyone, I am Tina Pappas. I work at Rutgers University. My formal role is Associate Director of Innovation and Technology. What that basically means is I work on special projects where innovation, technology, and process improvement intersect. I'm also a self-described community builder, so I'm very excited to be here and talk to you all about my passion. So today we've developed this program for really anyone who's interested in fostering connections. Specifically, we are certain that EDUCAUSE community group leaders, anyone who finds themselves in a community builder role, formal or informal, on their campuses, and really anyone in higher ed that wants to work on forging stronger connections with peers across the higher ed network. We think you all will find the material we present today to be quite relevant and useful, especially as we discuss with you some of the outcomes of today's session, where you'll definitely be able to think more about the role of community groups when it comes to networking and idea innovation. And those community groups don't just have to be, through associations. They can be community groups that you have or build on your campuses. We assure you that you'll be curious about new ideas and community connections based on the examples we're going to provide to you today. And then also we're going to share with you sort of a framework that will help you strategize so that you can achieve similar initiatives to what we're going to describe today in a little bit more detail. So I'm going to kick it to Kyle, and he's going to talk a little bit about how the 3 of us got to where we are in terms of community building through EDUCAUSE, and then we'll roll a little bit into some of the things we've learned.
All right, thank you, Tina. So this kind of all got started last year at the EDUCAUSE conference in 2019. We're all members of the Young Professionals community group with EDUCAUSE. Tina and Jonathan are actually leaders of that group. That community group. And at the annual conference last year, the Young Professionals had a meeting, as many community groups with EDUCAUSE do. And at that meeting, the president of EDUCAUSE, John O'Brien, was in attendance and was holding a sort of informal Q&A session with the Young Professionals. And among the questions that he asked of us Young Professionals was how EDUCAUSE could improve the conference experience to keep the young professionals engaged with EDUCAUSE and its mission. And as I was thinking about how to give some ideas, one of the things that I remembered was that my schedule for the conference was extremely packed because there were so many amazing sessions from last year's conference. And it meant that I didn't have any time to partake in an extra feature that the conference provided called Brain Dates. If you're not familiar with what Brain Dates was from last year's conference, It's put on by a company called E180, and they provide a framework for people to get together and discuss ideas in small groups and in one-on-one pairings. And it was a really great idea, I thought, but I just didn't have time to partake in it at the conference. So at this Q&A session, I brought up the idea of why can't we extend that opportunity outside the conference and make it a virtual thing that we could do year-round. And that idea kind of sat with John O'Brien, sat with Tina and Jonathan, and within a couple of weeks, less than a month, I got an email from Tina and Jonathan asking if I would be interested in helping them put together this kind of an idea, a proposal to see about putting together a program similar to what I was talking about, a virtual brain date. And the first thing that we did was to check and see if there was a virtual option already available. And to our surprise, there wasn't. The company that put together the brain dates wasn't interested at the time in doing anything outside of the conference experience. EDUCAUSE didn't have anything in the pipes that was exactly what we were talking about. They were working on their mentoring program, but this was a little bit more informal. And so we realized that there wasn't anything already in place that we could just use. So using a bunch of free tools like Trello, Google Docs, and a couple of other small free tools like Slack, the three of us put together a pilot program, a very small, do-it-yourself, bring your own video conference style program that allowed us to put together what we ended up calling young professional water coolers. So these one-on-one or small group chats about ideas that, anybody who was a part of the program could post a new idea that they were interested in talking about or looking to talk about, and others who wanted to could join and, just have a quick chat about whatever idea that they were interested in. And it went pretty well. We didn't, within 2 months, we were up and running. At the beginning of the first quarter of this year, we started by email blasting all of our young professionals with as many emails as we could get out reasonably, trying to get people engaged in this idea. And we were constantly receiving feedback via Google Form feedback forms and implementing that as we went along. But, it was all about building a community at the base of it. We didn't want it to be this manufactured thing. It just needed a launching point, and that's what we provided. But to this date, we haven't spent a single dime on this. It's very easy to get started. And so I'm going to kick it back to Tina to talk about where we're at right now.
Thanks, Kyle. So as far as the water cooler program, it peaked between January and March. And then, as you all know, COVID sort of happened. But in the time that it was thriving, we had about a dozen sessions with a scope of impact of about 75, deeper connections or interactions between people. From those water cooler sessions, which were anywhere from, one-on-ones to, 4 to, 6 people in a group talking about a specific topic, there were some relationships that were formed, and people went on to write EDUCAUSE articles together, continue to stay in touch after the water cooler. So really the experience through the water cooler program paid dividends for the people that were involved in it. Another thing that was really exciting about the water cooler, some months after COVID, July, I would say, was another program was born out of it. Again, with the essence being connecting people in small groups for more meaningful and intimate conversation. I reached out to Jonathan with an idea about, having an action-oriented conversation around race, specifically anti-racism. And he sort of said, there's a couple other people that I think would really be able to add to this conversation. And so we included a few more colleagues, and we had this conversation. We were like, oh, why don't we do a webinar? And I remember saying to myself, well, webinar is not a bad idea. Part of what I wanted to do was to kind of channel that meaningful internalization of the topic, right? And something about webinars is just a little bit more of a less attentive experience. I think people get so, overloaded with information that sometimes it takes a while before you internalize what you've seen through a webinar. Whereas you tend to walk away with something internalized when you have a conversation, even if it's with a buddy or a small group of colleagues. And so from that sort of idea, we blended both and we said, okay, well, what if we do some mix of webinars and private conversations? And I was like, well, why don't we use the water cooler? That's exactly what we're thinking about here. We're thinking about bringing people together, and the only difference is we're providing the topic. We're not counting on people to come up with the topic. And so it was like this beautiful fusion of the water cooler program on Trello that we had piloted, and then peppering in some short webinars where we'd explain our idea and what we were trying to achieve. And before you know it, we had the Anti-Racism in Academia program, which we call ARIA. It went from an idea in early July to a full-blown 5-month program by the end of the month. And we started the program in August. And we used Trello to have people sign up. We specified what the topic was going to be. We created some of the content and pointers to guide the discussion. And quite frankly, it was, an overwhelming response. So there were some things that we did learn through both the water cooler program and the ARIA program. One is that people have a very strong desire to connect. People like meeting with other people, sharing ideas, exchanging stories. It's just a natural human emotion. And so that wasn't surprising to us, but it was an affirmation that is something that you can certainly leverage and build upon. The other thing is that there is a success factor to having small group conversations. There are thoughts out there that introverted people would feel more threatened or uncomfortable in a small group conversation, but we're not finding that to manifest itself in the model. Either people are self-selecting not to engage in a small group conversation, or those who are and are a little bit more quiet are just speaking less or playing more of a listening role. Just because you want to engage in a 4-person conversation doesn't mean that you have to be the lead speaker or take up the most time speaking. You can be the most quiet one in the room and still walk away with, information exchange or hearing other people's stories. And the key thing to what we did in both cases, ARIA and the water cooler program, is we created the starting point. So we removed the barrier of where do I go from wanting to talk about something to actually talking about it. We created the space, we created the place, we created the process. All you had to do is be interested and click a couple of things, and you were basically good to go and on your way to meeting others. We also took out the networking aspect of it. You don't have to have your own network to find people to talk to. We were doing the broad reach across the Young Professionals Community Group mailing list. And so we were saying to the masses, hey, if you want to talk about something, create the topic, or if you're interested in talking about something, see if there's a topic that exists that you can plug into. So we kind of took all the logistics out of it, and all you have to do is want to be part of it. And so one of the things that really was also affirming to us in terms of whether this was a success or a failure is this really great quote from someone who took our feedback survey after experiencing a few sessions. And what that person said was, I think what we need now are more ideas, more conversations. I'm excited for this and would love to see more engagement. And so clearly people want more of this. And if it weren't for COVID, we'd probably be doing more. But right now we're trying to re-strategize how best to bring this back to everybody without further burdening anyone with the web conference fatigue that's been going on. So that's kind of where we are and what we've learned. And I'm going to give it to Jonathan to finish us off here with the future of our initiatives.
Thanks, Tina. And really, it's important to note that one of the beauties of the water cooler program was exactly what Tina said. Even if you are more introverted and don't want to be the leader of the discussion, you could still join a discussion and participate. And honestly, one of my favorite water coolers I attended is on digital credentialing and badging, which I have zero role involved with on my campus. I don't do anything with credentialing or badging when it comes to a program like Credly, for example, right? But it was a fascinating discussion. I brought nothing to the discussion from a expertise level, but just being a part of it and hearing ideas and what people are doing on campuses sparked some ideas for me to reach out to my own Center for Teaching and Learning and my own training and development teams and foster different conversations on my own campus. So I love that we were able to kind of take down those barriers of entry for some people to have those conversations and join in. And as Tina noted, one of the things with the water coolers, we were hoping by this point to have expanded to other CGs, but due to COVID, we kind of put that on a back burner, obviously, and wanted to allow people to focus on their own campus work and how they responded to COVID and how they continue to respond to COVID on their own campuses. But in the future, we do hope to see that program expand. With ARIA, that continues to expand more and more. We're adding facilitators every day, it seems, to help us with future discussions. We've gone from the water coolers just starting out, hitting an audience of roughly 75 people to being in the hundreds now with ARIA. So it's obvious that people want to connect, and that's where we want to reach out to you all and share some of what we've learned and what we have ideas as far as how you can foster these type of connections in your own community groups and your own campus. And one of the things we used is a framework that I borrowed from a colleague in EDUCAUSE. I can't even remember which one I had the discussion with, but it lines up well with kind of how we've approached both the water cooler idea and ARIA idea, which is using this framework that is 6 parts: identifying an opportunity, ideate on solutions, investigate feasibility, initialize a pilot, implement feedback, and introduce to a larger audience, and basically rinsing and repeating that framework. So for identifying, Kyle really started this ball rolling with just asking a simple question. And Tina and I, as community group leaders, heard that question, and Tina just could not get it out of her mind, right? And because of that, someone just asking a simple question is what has led to so much of fostering a community within our own young professional community and more broadly now, right? So it starts with something so simple as a question or a thought. And then Tina started running ideas in her own head about how to approach this because she just couldn't let it go. She had this idea of like, well, this is how we can connect people. And I'm thankful for that because she brought it back to me and we brought it to Kyle, and the 3 of us started to run through different ideas as well. And then we started investigating the feasibility of it, remembering and really championing the fact that perfection is the enemy of done, right? That we couldn't wait until this idea was flawless. It had no ways it could fail and it could do this. And sometimes you gotta run with it, right? And that's something that I'm uncomfortable with at times. But having colleagues like Tina to help push me out of my comfort zone at times is very helpful. And I grow as an employee because of that. And when we kicked this off as a pilot, we started with the young professional group, emailing, as Kyle and Tina said, emailing everyone on that listserv continually, pinging them on our Slack channel, trying to get engagement, right? And it worked. People started putting up ideas on that they wanted to talk about. Other people were joining, and because of that, as Tina noted, we've had articles forming out of those. We've had mentorship relationships form out of it. So it's really been a lot of fun to watch. The main thing that I say has been critical to our success is the 5th stage, though, implementing feedback. We have put in a feedback form for both of these programs from the start, and at every stage, we try to get more and more feedback. And taking that feedback, thinking about it, and implementing the small incremental changes along the way based off that feedback has had a huge impact, right? But know your limits, though, in this stage. If someone suggests going from a free idea to spending $20,000 a year, that's an idea you may not want to implement, right? So you do have to know your limits on what you can and cannot accomplish, but where possible, implement this feedback quickly. Don't wait on it. Don't let it be something 6 months from now you'll do. Take action, right? And then, if intended, introduce this to a larger audience, right? Perhaps you want it to stay at the scope of your pilot, but maybe you want it to go more broadly. And if so, again, don't wait. take action, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. People are yearning to connect. Connecting is very organic if you let it be. Some people just need that push, that platform in which to join on. So with that, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to engage us via email or Twitter. We cannot express our appreciation enough that you took the time to listen to our session. We hope you have a fantastic conference experience. Thank you all.
Have a great day, guys.
Take care.